It is 6:40 in the morning, and a woman is standing at her kitchen counter with a glass in her hand that could double as a vase. She didn't sleep well. Her mouth tastes like a cotton ball. Her head has that dull, low hum behind the eyes that she has learned to call just tired, because she has felt it so many mornings that she has stopped asking what it actually is. So she does the thing she has done for years, the thing almost everyone watching this has done at some point this very week. She fills the big glass to the top, tips her head back, and drains it in about 6 seconds. Then, because she read somewhere that hydration matters, she fills it again and drinks half of that too. There, done. Hydrated. She feels a small lift, mostly relief, and gets on with her morning. By 10 o'clock, she has been to the bathroom twice, her head still aches, and she is reaching for coffee number 2, wondering, the way she wonders most days, why she can drink so much water and still feel dry on the inside. I want to tell you something plain, right at the start, because it is the whole point of the next several minutes. That woman did not drink too little water. She drank it the wrong way, and the wrong way is so ordinary, so built into how we were taught to think about water that almost nobody ever stops to ask whether it's true. We treat water like it's a deposit. Pour it in, balance restored, transaction complete. But the human body doesn't work like a bank account. It works like a living system with doors that only open so fast, and if you don't understand those doors, you can drink a great deal of water and still walk around dehydrated. My name is Narrator Name, and for X years, I worked as a nurse, physiologist, clinician, customize, mostly with patients whose bodies had a very complicated relationship with fluid, heart patients, kidney patients, athletes brought in half-conscious from summer heat. I want to be straight with you before I go a single step further, the same way I always am with my patients' families. I am not your doctor, and nothing here replaces one. If you have kidney disease, heart failure, are pregnant, or a physician has ever told you to watch, restrict, or increase your fluids for a medical reason, that instruction comes from someone who knows your chart, not from a video on the internet. What I'm going to walk you through today is the plain physiology of how water actually moves through a human body. The mechanism, not a miracle. And once you understand it, you will never look at a glass of water the same careless way again. One quick note before I go on, and then I promise I won't mention it again. I've put the fuller version of this, the deeper mechanics, the specific routines I use with my own family, together in one place at yourwebsite.com. If you want it, it's there. Now, let's get into the part that actually matters. The mistake hiding inside something. Everyone already knows. Everyone has heard the advice, drink your water, 8 glasses a day, or half your body weight in ounces, or whatever number is trending this year. And so people who are genuinely trying to take care of themselves do exactly what that woman did. They pour a large glass, drink it down fast to get it over with, do that 2 or 3 times through the day, and feel they've done their duty. Here is the hard truth. A significant portion of that water never actually hydrates them. It goes in through the mouth and leaves through the kidneys, having done almost nothing along the way, except produce a trip to the bathroom and a false sense of being watered when they are not. Why? Let's talk about what is actually happening inside you, and I'll keep it honest and simple, because the real mechanism is not complicated, it's just never explained. The physiology. Why gulping water mostly fails your body is, among other things, an extremely precise chemistry set. Every cell you have is wrapped in a membrane, and water moves across that membrane by a process called osmosis. Water flows toward wherever the concentration of dissolved particles, salts, sugars, proteins, is higher, trying to keep everything in balance on both sides. Your blood, and the fluid surrounding every cell in your body, sits at a very tightly regulated concentration. Your body does not like that number moving very much in either direction, and it has hormonal systems built specifically to defend it. Here's what happens when you gulp a large glass of plain water in one go. That water is absorbed quickly through your stomach and small intestine into your bloodstream. Suddenly, your blood becomes more dilute than it should be. The concentration of sodium and other particles in it drops. Your brain has sensors for exactly this in a region called the hypothalamus, and they notice within minutes. The moment they notice, your brain does two things. First, it tells your pituitary gland to reduce the release of a hormone called antidiuretic hormone, or ADH, sometimes called vasopressin. Under normal conditions, ADH tells your kidneys to hold on to water, but when your blood suddenly gets too dilute, ADH drops off and your kidneys get the opposite instruction: let it go. Second, the excess fluid load itself increases pressure in a way that speeds your kidneys' filtration rate. The result is that your kidneys open up and begin flushing the extra water out to restore the correct balance. And here's the part that surprises most people. This isn't a slow process. A large bolus of plain water, drunk quickly on an otherwise normal day, can be substantially cleared from your bloodstream within 60 to 90 minutes. You felt like you did something. Your body treated most of it as a problem to correct, not a resource to store. Now compare that to what happens when you take in the same total amount of water slowly, spread across the day, especially alongside food. Your blood concentration barely shifts at any given moment. There is no dilution alarm, no ADH shutoff, no flushing response. Instead, the water has time to be absorbed steadily and distributed into your tissues, into your muscles, your skin, the fluid around your joints, inside your cells themselves, where it actually contributes to how you feel and function. Slowly delivered water gets retained. Rapidly dumped water gets processed and discharged. This is not folklore dressed up to sound wise. This is standard, well-established kidney and fluid physiology, and it explains a pattern nearly everyone has lived through without ever being told why. You can drink what feels like plenty of water and still feel dry, foggy, and tired by early afternoon. The sponge and the fire hose. Let me give you a picture, because once you see it, you will never forget it. Take a dry kitchen sponge and hold it under a slow, steady trickle from the tap. Watch what happens. The water soaks in evenly, spreading through every fiber, and within a minute or two, that sponge is heavy and saturated all the way through. Now take that same dry sponge and blast it for 1 second with a fire hose. What happens? Almost none of the water penetrates the sponge at all. It splashes off the surface, floods around it, and runs down the drain. The sponge, a second later, is still mostly dry in the middle. You used 100 times more water and hydrated it far less. Your body's tissues behave like that sponge. Your cells can only draw in water at a certain rate, governed by osmosis and by the channels, literally called aquaporins, that let water pass through cell membranes. A slow, steady supply lets every tissue soak fully. A sudden flood overwhelms the system's capacity to distribute it, and your kidneys, sensibly, treat the excess as something to remove rather than something to keep. The old saying, "You can't fill a bucket with a fire hose and expect it to stay full." Most people have heard some version of that about other things in life. It turns out to be literally, physiologically true about your own body and a glass of water. What you're actually losing all day, whether you notice or not here, is something most people never think about. You are losing water constantly, not just when you sweat. Even sitting perfectly still in a cool, air-conditioned room, an average adult loses roughly 2 to 2.5 liters of water a day. Some of that leaves through urine, obviously, but a large portion leaves in ways you don't see or feel. Water vapor in every breath you exhale, and continuous invisible evaporation through your skin, a process physiologists call insensible water loss, precisely because you don't sense it happening. That loss doesn't pause at night. You can go 7 or 8 hours without a single sip of water while you sleep, and your body keeps losing it the entire time, through breathing, through skin, through normal kidney function that never fully shuts off. That is exactly why the first urine of the morning tends to be darker and more concentrated. It is your kidneys reporting, in a color you can literally read, that you woke up already running a deficit before you'd had a single sip. And you have no internal reservoir to draw on. Unlike fat, which your body can store in real quantity for later use, you don't have a meaningful water reserve. What goes in has to be replaced continuously, or the deficit simply compounds hour after hour, day after day. A slow drift that shows up not as obvious thirst, but as headaches, fatigue, poor concentration, and that dull, just tired feeling so many people have simply learned to accept as normal. The method. How the physiology actually tells you to drink. So if gulping fails and steady intake works, what does that actually look like across a real day? Let me walk you through it, because the principle is only useful if you can put it into practice tomorrow morning. Start the moment you wake up, but start small. You are already behind from the overnight loss, but the instinct to catch up with one huge glass is exactly the mistake we just walked through. Instead, take a modest amount, roughly half a normal glass, as soon as you're up. Not gulped, just taken calmly. Go about your first few minutes of the morning. Then take another modest amount a little later, and another with breakfast. You are not trying to fill the tank in one pour. You are opening the tap for a slow soak that will continue all day. Keep the supply small and constant, not large and occasional. This is the rule for the entire day. Small and steady beats big and seldom every time, because it works with your kidneys' ADH response instead of triggering it. A few swallows here, a partial glass there, spread across all your waking hours, will hydrate you far more effectively than the same total volume taken in 2 or 3 large sittings. Keep water within reach wherever you spend most of your time, your desk, your car, your kitchen counter, so that a small sip is always the easiest option, rather than something you have to remember to go get. Most people do the exact opposite without realizing it. They forget about water for hours, get properly thirsty, then correct it with one large glass, which, as you now understand, mostly runs straight through them, after which they forget again. It's a cycle of flood and drought, playing out inside the body the same way it would ruin a field of crops outdoors. Drink with your meals, not just apart from them. When water arrives in your system alongside food, it is absorbed more gradually and retained more effectively than the same water taken alone on an empty stomach. Food slows gastric emptying, which slows the rate at which fluid reaches your bloodstream, which is exactly the slow trickle instead of fire hose effect we want. Having water on the table as a normal part of every meal, rather than treating hydration as a separate task, is a simple habit with a real physiological basis. Let a meaningful share of your water come from food itself. Whole foods with high water content, cucumbers, tomatoes, melon, citrus, leafy greens, broths, and soups, deliver water bound up with fiber, natural sugars, and minerals. That combination slows absorption in the same beneficial way that eating alongside a glass of water does, and it arrives already carrying some of the electrolytes your body uses to hold on to that water once it's inside you. This is not a minor detail. Fluid consumed as part of whole food tends to be retained more effectively than the same volume of plain water taken alone. The electrolyte question. Handled honestly. Now let's talk about something you'll hear constantly if you spend any time in health spaces online. That water alone doesn't count unless you add salt to it, ideally some expensive specialty salt, before every glass. There is a kernel of real physiology in this, and I want to give it to you honestly rather than dismiss it. Sodium plays a genuine role in fluid balance. It helps determine where water sits in your body and helps your kidneys regulate how much they retain versus excrete. A body that is severely sodium depleted, which does happen in situations of heavy prolonged sweating, certain illnesses, or specific medical conditions, can have real trouble holding on to water no matter how much of it you drink. But here's where I'll part ways with a lot of what gets sold to you. For the overwhelming majority of people eating a normal diet, the answer to that problem is not dosing yourself with crystals of specialty salt before every glass of water, and it is not buying an imported pink or gray salt at 5 times the price of the ordinary kind sitting in your cupboard. Table salt and specialty salts are, chemically, essentially the same compound, with trace mineral differences too small to matter for everyday hydration. The people who tend to be genuinely short on electrolytes are usually short on something else first: whole food. A diet heavy in processed, packaged items tends to be oversupplied with sodium and undersupplied with potassium, magnesium, and the other minerals that come bundled in the right, natural proportions inside fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. Fix that balance by eating real food and salting it to taste at the table, and for most people, the electrolyte question quietly resolves itself at no extra cost and with no specialty product required. If you sweat heavily for extended periods, work outdoors in serious heat, or have a medical condition affecting fluid or sodium balance, that is a conversation for your doctor, not a formula from a video. Putting the whole picture together. Let's draw the full shape of this, because once you see it, it is simple enough to actually live by. Your body is losing water every single hour, whether you're active or perfectly still, through breath, through skin, through ongoing kidney function, and you have no reserve tank to draw on, so it has to be replaced continuously. But it has to be replaced the way your physiology actually absorbs it, in a slow, steady supply that your cells and kidneys can keep pace with, not in large, occasional floods that trigger a hormonal shutoff and mostly run straight through you. Spread your intake across the day. Take it with meals. Let a real share of it come from whole food, which brings its own minerals along for the ride and helps you retain what you drink. That's the entire mechanism. Not a product, not a powder, not a specialty salt, just an accurate understanding of how osmosis, kidney filtration, and hormonal regulation actually govern the water already sitting in your kitchen. Why you've never been told this plainly. Here's the part that I think about often, and it's not a conspiracy. It's something plainer and, in a way, harder to fix than a conspiracy would be. There is very little money in telling someone to sip plain tap water slowly throughout the day and eat more vegetables. Nobody gets rich from that advice. So the space where that simple, correct information should live tends to get filled instead with things that can be sold: specialty electrolyte powders in bright pouches, imported salts with elaborate origin stories, hydration supplements marketed to solve a problem that a differently timed glass of water would have solved for free. The physiology didn't get disproven. It just never had a marketing budget behind it. Before you go, tell me in the comments, are you a gulper? The one big glass and done? Or has this changed how you're going to drink for the rest of today? And if you've ever noticed that dark morning urine, dry by afternoon pattern in yourself, I'd like to hear that too. I read every comment. In the next video, I want to build directly on this one and go through, meal by meal, exactly which whole foods carry the most usable water and minerals, and how to structure a single day of eating and drinking so the two work together instead of against each other. Same approach as today: what's actually true, what's just a nice story, and how to use it starting tomorrow morning. Subscribe if you don't want to miss it. And the next time you find yourself reaching for a big glass to catch up on water you forgot to drink earlier, remember the sponge and the fire hose, and give your body the slow, steady trickle it was actually built to use.